A pre-sales solutions architect, whether it's in cloud, virtualization, or any other form of IT like security, let's say, is going to be a technical professional that's going to work with sales teams to help customers really understand the benefits of specific technology. If it's focused on cloud, it'll be more or less in that area. So with that said, the goal is to really take that customer requirement and translate that into a solution that is going to work and bring value to the customer. So when we consider becoming a solutions architect in the pre-sales world, it's really about building that relationship. Another way I like to state that is become that trusted advisor. Now, a trusted advisor is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to build that relationship and advise the customer throughout that relationship. It's also important to realize that the pre-sales architect will likely be involved not just before the sale, but during and after the sale in some respects as well. Because again, we're going to be that trusted advisor. My experience working with the major vendors and integrators as a pre-sales architect in various roles throughout the history of my IT career is that if you're the go-to person, you're going to be the one they're going to talk to first about what they really need to solve in their IT infrastructure or cloud infrastructure, whatever that scenario is. So if they understand that you're trustworthy, they're going to ask you, what can they do to solve this problem? And this is a great way for you to build that rapport over time with that customer. So whether that customer buys an entry-level service from you or buys a multi-million-dollar cloud deployment service, whatever that is, then that is great. Becoming that trusted advisor is so important because not only that, it builds a relationship between you and the customer, but it also builds a relationship between the customer and the company that you work for. So if you work for a large integrator, whether it's commercial or DoD or other forms of federal government contracting, then it's important to realize that that customer will likely turn to you down the road when it comes to other issues, challenges, problems that they need to solve. So you as a trusted advisor need to build that relationship, whether it is just a check-in call every month, taking them out to lunch, doing a whiteboard session, a lunch and learn, whatever it is, that's a really great way to build that rapport with the customer. One of the things I really like to do when I was working in a lot of these pre-sales roles in the DC area for the major vendors is that I like to do a lot of lunch and learns. We would just order lunch and we would just have a 1 hour sort of catch up on the technology, answer questions, solve problems with the customer. Those seem to work pretty well, at least in my scenario. Now, another thing that works as well from a pre-sales perspective is just getting together with the account team and being proactive, trying to get out with the customer, whether it's taking them out to lunch or if it's a larger potential customer, as we would like to say, a larger basically potential sale, larger potential contract value. We would like to take them to a Capitals game or we would take them to a Nationals game. So these are things that could be done to build that relationship. Now, when you consider a role of a pre-sales cloud solutions architect, what exactly would you be doing? It's not just all lunch and learns. It's not just all design, right? It's going to be more or less understanding the customer's needs, being proactive, building that relationship. It's about understanding what environment they're in now and understanding what their requirements are and what would be the potential cloud solution, let's say, they need to go to. These are things that you want to work with the customer. Another thing that we would be involved with would be proof of concept. So as a pre-sales anything, you're going to need to work with proof of concepts. So whether that's spinning up a small cloud deployment in AWS or whatever cloud they're using, then it's important to realize that you would need to have some technical knowledge in that area to get that build out. Now, generally, too, you're a pre-sales, so you're not going to be the one that's going to set up a lot of the back-end requirements. You're more or less making sure that the template's in place so that you're able to work with the customer to run through demonstrations with the proof of concept, let's say, to test everything out. Now, when it comes to another area, and this is one area that I have found can be challenging for a lot of people, and for me as well when I first got started, and that's having to deal with what is called request for proposals. So RFPs are really a great turnoff for a lot of technical experts because of the writing required for the design, for the architecture, diagrams you'd have to put together, responding to requests. And this is really true, especially like if you're in the federal sector. These can be pretty much a bear to deal with. Now, in the commercial sector, it's not so much in that respect, really strict RFP requirements. However, I've seen companies, really be challenging to deal with, like AOL was a large customer at the time. It's just, again, everything can vary based on your audience that you're selling to. So it's really about building that relationship. Again, that's really the main trusted advisor role I like to just refer to when it comes to a pre-sales role. Now, some of the other things you may be involved with would be just going through technical presentations, working with the sales team. The sales team would set up the initial meeting. They might need some help with a presentation around the technical merits of a solution. So let's say you're selling a cloud solution. You probably need to deal with just the basic questions around how does this work? How does this solve the problem? If you're selling, for example, a specific cloud solution, let's say it's a monitoring service or it's a security solution that your company sells, you'll need to really point out how that product solves a customer problem, answer all the technical questions for that specific audience. So there's a lot more to that. And I think when it comes to requirements, that's another question I would typically get. So what do you really need to become a pre-sales cloud solutions architect or just a pre-sales engineer? And the term, I'm going to be honest, is used pretty loosely. So some companies think of a pre-sales engineer as more of a hybrid role where you deal with the customer, but you also do some post-sales. And this is really true, especially with some of the smaller vendors, because they didn't have really the need to have a ton of full-time pre-sales and post-sales people on the bench. So you would have to be adapted. Like one of my first roles as a pre-sales engineer was working for a company at the time called 3PAR Data. So 3PAR Data was mainly a small storage vendor at the time before they got bought by HP. And again, I had to deal with not only the pre-sales, can this storage array solve your problems or can it not? What would be the cost? What would be the scoping? What would be the typical requirements you'd have to gather to work with the sales team to get the quote out to the customer? And then once it was sold, we'd have to go in and help the customer set it up. And again, 3PARs are really easy from a post-sales perspective because they were pretty limited in how they would be deployed, and they would be really easy to provision as well. So it wasn't like setting up a Symmetrix with EMC, for example. Totally different environment. Okay, so having that strong technical background can be a huge benefit too, especially if you're going to go after a hybrid role in the world of pre-sales. Okay, now when it comes to what do you really need, now it is very useful to have a degree. In a lot of larger companies, they look at that as still a requirement. Now, some of the other requirements could be just having experience. A course is going to be a big deal. Generally, companies don't hire pre-sales engineers or solutions architects without having many years of experience, because that experience is what the customer needs to have to be able to build trust around you, to be able to understand. And the company needs you to have experience as well to be able to close a sale as well from a technical perspective. Now, having experience with multiple cloud platforms is a big deal. Having really solid communication skills, whiteboarding skills is a big deal. Being able to take the customer vision, the customer requirements, and translating that into a technical solution is a big deal. Working as part of a team is also important as well. And solving problems, being analytical, is really a big deal in the world of solutions engineering in general. Now, when it comes to certifications, definitely consider looking at the Certified Cloud Pre-Sales Solutions Architect certification. The link is in the description as well for those that are viewing this like on YouTube or a blog post, for example. So you'll be able to find that on techcommanders.com. So becoming a pre-sales expert, whether it's in cloud or IT infrastructure, security, whatever it is, can be really rewarding. And it's so important that you build up those technical skills and also those people skills, the communication skills. Very important to your success as a pre-sales expert. So with that said, have a great day.